Hello, Holler Time viewers. Judy Shields here. We are so happy to welcome back Mark Anthony, JD Psychic Explorer, also known as Psychic Lawyer, who is a fourth-generation psychic medium who communicates with spirits. Mark recently won the OME Award for Best Psychic Medium. Hey, Mark, thank you for joining us today. It's so great to see that smile of yours.
Oh, thank you, Judy. It's always great talking to you. Um it's like reconnecting with a family member, and I really appreciate it. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in too. I've known Judy, we were just talking about this since probably 2015, and we were talking about when we were both at the premiere of Genius. Ron Howard, the first season that involved Albert Einstein, and it was really great being on the yellow carpet for Nat Geo and meeting the stars like Jeffrey Rush and so many other people there. And Judy and I just had the best.
I see Mark. Hey, Mark, what are you doing? And we're all talking. I'm like, you should be on that side over there. So we're like, you get on the yellow carpet because you should be interviewed. It was pretty exciting and getting to meet Ron Howard and talking to him and Jeffrey Rush. And, it was a screening that was awesome. Then we come out in the lobby and then you're out there and all of a sudden here comes Jeffrey Rush and he's like in your face. And that was so cool. Your meet and greet with him.
Yeah, it was really cool because Albert Einstein has always been one of my heroes.
Oh.
And then here I am. I just saw the screening of Genius about Albert Einstein, and then I come face to face with Jeffrey Rush, who did a spectacular job of bringing Albert Einstein to life. And he was so cool because I said, "Well, I write about and I teach how quantum physics proves the existence of the afterlife." He goes, "Oh, mate, we gotta take a picture," and he puts
Yeah.
his arm around me. I'm like, "Oh my God." And it's funny because I usually don't get starstruck, but that was Jeffrey Rush, and he played Albert Einstein. And this is one of those things I probably shouldn't admit, but I think the statute of limitations, back I know it has passed. But some years ago, before that, about I think about probably in 2014, I was on a speaking tour, which landed me in Princeton, New Jersey, and Albert Einstein taught at Princeton, and I snuck into his classroom, and it's kind of off limits. You're not supposed to be in there, but I just wanted to stand where Albert Einstein stood. And I remember standing, at the front of the class, and it was kind of like a stadium seating type of class in, like an amphitheater style, would probably seat about 100 students. And it just was the coolest feeling ever. So, I just wanted to share that, and thank you again, Judy, for everything during the Genius premiere. That was fantastic.
Oh, you're welcome. I have to say this to all of our viewers. I'm going to speak from my heart. I'm going to hope not to cry, but I just have to tell everybody I met Mark for the first time over the phone. We had a phone interview. His publicist had sent me a copy of Never Letting Go. That was Mark's book. And I have to tell you, my mother, God rest her soul, is going to be gone 30 years this year. So back then it might have been 2014, maybe before when this book, can't really remember. But I read that book and my mom had passed in 1994. I had struggled with the loss, the grief, and how it had changed the person I was, I thought. And after reading Mark's book, Never Letting Go, it changed my life forever. I was able to let go of my mother in a way that changed my life for the better. I miss her dearly. I think of her every day. And it actually helped me. My father passed away 2 years ago. It actually helped me to grieve in a different way from my father. And I'm telling you, folks, Never Letting Go is the most amazing book. If you struggle with grief, which most of us have or are going to, you should get this book because it will change your life. And then Mark came out with another book after that called Evidence of Eternity to talk about Never Letting Go. And I'm on the plane going somewhere when he had sent me that book, and I'm opening up and there's a line in there with Judy Shields, Hollow Times, and I'm like screaming the plane. The people are probably thinking, "What's wrong with you?" I was so excited to see my name in like in a book that I just have to tell everybody about those two books, and we'll talk about your third one in a while. But, thank you so much, Mark, for, writing those books.
Well, thank you, Judy. And you totally
Mm.
got the message of never letting go. When people hear the title, they think never letting go. What I teach in that book, in which you clearly understood and got, is that you never let go of the love for the person who passed. What we have to let go of is the pain associated with their passing.
Yeah.
And because I hear so many psychologists and grief counselors say, well, you have to let go of the person. The truth is, you're not going to. You're always going to love your mom. You're always going to love your dad. I've lost my parents, my best friends, my godfather, my godmother. I mean, I've lost people very significant to me, and I love them and always will. But it's a relief and it's healing to let go of that gnawing pain. That doesn't mean it's not going to raise its gnarly head now and again, because it does. But it's important for us to understand that grief is a road nobody wants to take. Unfortunately, it's one we're shoved down at some point during our life.
Yeah.
And it's a lifetime journey. You don't get over the loss of a loved one. It's a journey that you go through. So thank you, Judy. I really appreciate you mentioning never letting go and evidence of eternity.
Oh, like I said, it's everyone needs it, and we never know when some of us might be lucky enough to not experience death until later in our life, which that's an amazing thing to go through life as you get older and not experience. I mean, I think my mom, like I said, she died in 94, and then I think her sister died 3 years prior. Her mom died 3 years. So I think that was the first time when I was in my late 20s that I experienced death for the first time for my grandmother. So that's an amazing thing to go that many years, with not experiencing it. So we're all going to experience it at one time or another. So having those books, like I said, will help you, in your grief, because we all have it.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do.
So let's uh let's ask a few questions here that I got for you. In the Afterlife Frequency, which is your latest book, you write about how it was growing up psychic. When did you first realize you had the ability?
I had a very unconventional childhood, and it didn't stop there. It's a I was about 3.5 years old, and I started interacting with spirits, my invisible friends. Now, normally it's not unusual for a child to have invisible friends, but when mommy and daddy can see who I'm talking to as well, because both of my parents had mediumistic abilities, and both sides of the family could not possibly have been more different. My mother's family was of Italian descent, and the Italians looked at this as a gift from God, and they called it like the vision, the second sight. My dad's family, they were very conservative, white Anglo-Saxon Protestants from Pennsylvania, and my father had four siblings, three sisters and a brother, and his sister Marjorie, like they were mediums, as was their mother Isabel and their maternal grandmother Grace. And then on my mom's side of the family, her maternal grandmother Giovanna was known as the woman who knows things in Little Italy and in the North Jersey Italian community. And in fact, Judy, in 2016, PBS did a special called The Italian Americans. It was a 2-night special. And they actually did an entire segment on Giovanna, and they referenced her psychic abilities. And I remember when that was on, my family, we knew it was going to be on, but on every commercial break, my cousins were calling me, I'm calling them. And it was really nice to see Giovanna honored. And so my parents both happen to be mediums. My dad was a Navy SEAL. And so he gets out of the Navy, and he's, young Navy SEAL, all cocky and full of himself. And he goes to this dance. It's like a Navy dance. And he said, I saw this foxy looking dame there. And he's talking about my mom. And it's funny because I think he was all of 21, and she was 19. And he thought she was like 30. And the reason for that is my mom worked in fashion at a high-end department store, so she got all the designer clothes wholesale. So mom was always dressed to the nines. Anyway, long story short, they hit it off, and then they went to a couple more dances together. And eventually, my mother said to him, "Before we see each other anymore, you have to know something. I see spirits." And then, of course, my dad replied, as only a sailor could, with incredible amounts of colorful metaphors, followed by, "So do I."
Oh, wow. Can you imagine being in that room during that date? It's like that's something, you know. It's like so with that said, you know, how was it different growing up with parents that were psychics?
Well, it wasn't easy because I couldn't get away with anything when I was a kid. They always knew. I mean, parents all have that, you know what's kind of going on and feeling, but mine really did. But the thing is, my father was very adamant. When I was 5 years old, I was starting school and I went to Catholic school. And he said, "Do not tell anyone about this except your mother and I. You can talk about this to mommy and I all you want, but people who see things others don't get taken away."
Oh,
What really scared me,
yeah.
I found out years later why he said that to me. About 20 years before I was born, his sister Marjorie, and I mentioned her earlier, was a medium. Unfortunately, she married this religious extremist, and he was afraid of her abilities. He thought it was the work of the devil, which is nonsense. But one day he was going to work, and he worked as a machinist at the steel plant in Pennsylvania. And Marjorie started getting these pains in her stomach and she was doubling over. And she begged him, "I have a horrible feeling you can't go to work." Anyway, they got into a large argument, but finally said, "Fine, fine, I'll stay home." So he stays home. And that day, a crane was lifting thousands of pounds of steel beams, and suddenly the cable snapped and the beams crushed the machine shop that he worked in and killed everybody in it. So logically, he would have been there. It's probably over a 90% chance. One would think that he would have been grateful. Instead, this intensified his fear of her, Judy, and he actually conspired with a psychiatrist, had her diagnosed as a paranoid schizophrenic. She was forcibly removed from their home, put into a straitjacket, taken to a mental institution, and subjected to electroshock therapy for over 6 months. And it did so much damage to her brain. My parents said that Marjorie never talked about seeing spirits or foretelling future events again. Now, obviously, I didn't know this when I was 5 years old, but as I got older, I eventually found out, and then I understood that my dad wasn't trying to be mean to me. He was being a dad in a seal. He was trying to protect me. And
Mm.
that's why he said people who see things others don't get taken away, because historically, mediums, we've always been there. And sometimes we're looked at in a favorable light, but more often than not, we've been subjected to horrific persecution because of, people don't understand it and they're afraid.
Yeah. And probably back in the day, is that where maybe they called women or men witches, right? Did that
Oh,
happen?
yeah.
Yeah, right?
Oh, certainly. I mean,
Yeah.
and here's the really fascinating thing is, let's look at the medieval Europe.
Yeah.
If you had these abilities and you joined the clergy, you were receiving visions of the Holy Spirit, like Saint Teresa of Avila, Saint Clare of Assisi. All right, since you're with the Hollywood Times, I'll tell you something cool. Saint Clare of Assisi, she was a close associate of Saint Francis of Assisi. They were friends, and he exhibited every form of psychic ability. And toward the end of his death, he would pray and go into such a deep state of prayer. He bled from his hands, his feet, the wound in his side, and his head. This is known as stigmata. And the skeptics call it hemohydrosis, where when you're under an extreme state of stress, you can sweat blood. But why was he bleeding from the location of the wounds associated with the crucifixion with Jesus? And then their friend, Saint Anthony of Padua, was able to lecture in languages he never even studied. So there's all this channeling psychic ability. Well, St. Clare had gotten so ill toward the end of her life that she could no longer attend church services. She couldn't go to Mass. So she prayed to God to let her see what was happening in Mass. And it was documented that she was able to see in real time what was going on in church. We now know this ability as remote viewing. And in fact, the CIA, the KGB, the Chinese Secret Service and espionage, the French and the British have actually had a psychic warfare division since the 1930s. They've all known about these things. And that's why in 1958, Pope Pius XII declared St. Clare the patron saint of television because she was receiving visions of something happening in real time from afar. So I thought that's the perfect thing to say in an interview with Hollywood Times, that television actually has a patron saint.
Oh my goodness. Now I'm gonna be looking at the television differently, Mark. Thanks. Oh my gosh. That's a great story. Thanks for sharing that.
Well, yeah. Sorry, let me finish real quick. So if you join the clergy, you got visions of the Holy Spirit. But if you didn't, like Joan of Arc, who said
Oh,
that Saint Michael, Saint Catherine, and Saint, oh gosh, I think it was Saint Mary, they were guiding her to lead the English army to defeat the French, the French army to defeat the English in the Hundred Years' War. Well, she ended up getting burned at the stake for witchcraft and heresy. So to follow up on your comment, you're absolutely correct that historically mediums have been accused of witchcraft and all these terrible things. So the smart psychics joined the clergy. The ones that maybe not so smart usually ended up as the entertainment on Friday night at the burning.
oh my gosh. Okay, which one do you choose?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So you being a lawyer and all, did you work as a lawyer, get you interested in understanding the brain function and the nature of the consciousness? And also, did you use your ability as a lawyer, to be a psychic medium and all that?
Certainly, I was a prosecutor for the state of Florida. Then I went into private practice, and I handled complex criminal and civil litigation, and then I became involved in personal injury and head injury litigation. That's where I started learning about the brain. I've tried over 100 jury trials, at least 1,000 bench trials. I've represented thousands of people. So when it comes to court and trial work, I'm a battle-hardened veteran, without a doubt. And I've represented everything from Marine Patrol violations right up to premeditated first-degree murders and everything in between. And my psychic ability, people think, oh, it'll make you, invulnerable. People have to realize this isn't a superpower. It doesn't make me all-knowing and all-seeing, but it can give me insights into situations, and certainly in selecting juries, it was very, very useful. And there's a lot of stories I could tell about that, but I certainly did use my abilities because that's part of my skill set. And then when I left the practice of law to go into full-time mediumship, I took all the skills I acquired. And see, the wonderful thing about law is it puts you in everything. Kind of reminds me of Al Pacino in The Devil's Advocate when Ken Reeves is like, "Why the law?" And he goes, "Because it puts you in everything." Al Pacino and The Devil's Advocate. Al
Yeah.
Pacino's Satan, and he's the head of a law firm, and it's kind of a horror movie with a bit of a
Comedy.
dark comedy, and I highly recommend the movie.
Good
It's
movie.
awesome. It's awesome. But the thing is, that line is correct. Think about, Judy, is there one aspect of our life that doesn't have some type of regulation? And some people say, well, that's bad. Or is it? If you're drinking safe to drink water or eating food that's safe to drink, that's because of government regulation. If you're driving a car that doesn't burst into flames, it's because of government regulation. So, it's not necessarily a bad thing. And in my practice of law, I handled all types of cases, and I needed expert witness, chemists, biologists, neurobiologists who study the brain, forensics, all types, accident reconstruction. And so I specialized in head injury litigation. I had to learn about the functions of the brain and the different parts of it. So when I was focusing on my mediumistic work, and most mediums, when you ask them, how does this happen? The response is, I don't know. I see a lot of the mediums on TV that, they're interviewed and they're like, well, I don't know, and the thing is, I do know. And that's why I wrote Evidence of Eternity, and even more importantly, my latest book, The Afterlife Frequency, because none of this is hocus pocus or magic. There are sound scientific principles to explain all of this. And that's why I work with the International Association for Near-Death Studies. I work with the Laboratory for Advanced Consciousness and Health at the University of Arizona, which has one of the most advanced afterlife research departments in the country. I've done work with the Division of Perceptual Studies out of University of Virginia. And then I'm a member of the Galileo Commission from London and the Institute of Noetic Sciences, which was founded by astronaut Edgar Mitchell to study paranormal phenomenon, because I believe that we have to incorporate credible science and evidence to bring us out of the fringes of the turbines and crystal balls into the scientific world.
If you have a spiritual message for the world, what is it?
I do. And I have to give a quick introduction to how this came to me. About 2 weeks after my mother passed, I was practicing law at the time, and I was very upset, and I was driving back from court, and one of those waves of grief hit me. And I knew I needed to pull over, so I pulled over in this parking lot of a convenience store, and I thought, let me get my act together. I can't walk to my law firm in tears. I got to get my, and I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden this flash of light goes off in the car. And I turn to the passenger side, and there in this beautiful silver white light is my mom. Before I can say anything, her voice filled my head and said, Mark, you have the gift of mediumship so that you would not be crushed by grief, but now you must help those who are suffering with theirs. All right, now I'm breaking out in a sweat, and I'm trying to comprehend this. And then I heard her next message. Your life's mission is to help people understand that God exists, that heaven, the afterlife exists, that souls or immortal living beings, that humans can communicate with souls, and that we will all be reunited when it is your appointed time to leave your world into the light you call God. And Judy, I sank back in the chair, my seat in the car. I'm soaking wet with sweat, and all I could say was, okay. And on one hand, I thought, if I tell anyone this, they're going to think I'm insane. And then on the other hand, it dawned on me that my life had now changed forever, and there was no turning back. And so that's the message I have for the world. The divine power, however you wish to perceive the divine, exists, that heaven, the afterlife exists. We are immortal living beings, our souls. We can communicate with souls, and we will see our loved ones when we are supposed to leave this world and transition into the light.
Yes, great answer. Thank you, 100%.
I also invite everyone to sign up for my newsletter. That'll keep you up to date on my nationwide tour. I just spoke at the Sedona Spirit Ascension Retreat, and I'm heading next to the New Living Expo in San Rafael. Then after that, I'll be in Tampa, Florida, at the Edgar Casey Field Conference on Reincarnation. Then a week after that, and I remember this one because it's on May 4th, so May the 4th be with you. I'll be at the Edgar Casey ARE in Virginia Beach for their Reincarnation Summit. Over the summer online, I'll be presenting at the Galileo Commission. And then in August, I will be at Helping Parents Heal conference at Wild Horse Pass outside of Phoenix. And then I'll be back in Virginia Beach in October for the Ancient Mysteries Conference, where I'm presenting the secrets, mysteries, and curses of Tutankhamun's tomb. So it's a pretty busy year, and every Thursday night at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, I co-host The Psychic in the Dock. It's a call-in show. It's a live stream show. And my co-host, Dr. Pat Basile, is a world-renowned psychologist. So people call in. I can do a reading for you, and then Dr. Pat helps you understand how the messages apply to your life. Nobody else is doing anything like this because we are the psychic in the dock.
That is so cool. Yes, I've had a couple of friends that actually call in and talk with you.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Good.
So
Yeah,
it's
well, yeah, welcome all the listeners to call in, and you can find out about all this on my website, afterlifefrequency.com.
very good. So when are you coming out here to the West Coast?
Well, I'm going to be in San Rafael, California, but we're trying to get down to the LA, Burbank, Hollywood area. So that's in the works as well. And definitely, Judy, we will
Keep in
let you
touch.
know. Yeah.
Well, we greatly appreciate you talking with us here at the Hollywood Times. We have our YouTube channel, Hollywood Times Official, and this will be going up on our YouTube channel as well. And we'll share that with you. And we look forward to speaking with you again. And good luck with everything. And we can't wait to see you here, in the LA area, Hollywood.
God bless. Thank you.
Thank you so much.